This is the OMFL.
You can't touch this.
And you're in the mix with KindaRealNate. Here's another OMFL production.
Good morning and welcome to Press Pass Live, your weekly podcast show for the OMFL. Thanks so much for tuning in with us today. Let me quickly invite my two guests into this house. Mr. Dawson, Mr. Maniac, it has been a while since we've all been together. Guys, how you doing?
Doing great.
Pretty good.
Smashing introductions. Thank you so much for all of your energy and passion on early Saturday morning. No, just really, let's get into it though, man. There's so much for us to talk about. We really haven't done a show since almost the beginning of the year, at least right after the start of the year. And man, it's going to be playoff time here in another advance. We've got one more week left, and then we're going to be into the playoffs. So we're going to introduce a new section called the 2-minute drill. I'm giving each of you 2 minutes to talk about any subject that you want. Maybe your favorite game, maybe a team that surprised you, maybe a division leader, maybe a hot topic in the league. Maybe it's just something that you're super passionate about. 2-minute drill, though. This is your time to talk about anything that you want. And we're going to start with you, Mr. Dawson. This is your 2-minute drill. Go.
Yeah, probably won't be 2 minutes, but I'll try to make up for it. One interesting team I would say that has been playing throughout the season. He kind of got a little bump in the first season with the computer wins, but I would say he has progressed and continued the success. Would be the Dallas Cowboys. Setting at 13-1-1, and he has, if he wins, he get that first round bye. So I know a lot of teams are looking for that first round bye. Overall, just the way he's been playing the game. I played him, and that user linebacker is really, really irritating. He just sets back and he can just user anybody in the middle of the field. If you haven't noticed, his rookie quarterback, has been playing pretty good. I did get him on 6 interceptions in 2 of my games, so there's that. And I'm looking forward to playing him again come next season, and hopefully I'll get the W's instead of him. So that's my interesting team of the season so far. And basically, like you said, is you kind of touched it up on the last podcast. Is FPR. Some guys, and this is just not my opponents, or this is just me seeing throughout the season, other games and everybody else, just the whole league, is some guys like to ride the line of what's not FPR and what is FPR. And what I mean by that is, most of your team or the games, your tight ends leading in the receptions. And what that means is that you're checking down and you're doing a good job in NFL as far as moving the ball down, but you're going for the easy routes. You're not going for those tough routes, and that could be another topic down the road. But there is an FPR rule on that. And another thing is calling cover 3 zone every third down. Because that's a solid. At least I feel like it's a solid play you can call on third down, because everybody's going to at least drop down and try to pass the ball, especially when it's third and long. And if you're really good with the linebackers, you can just sit there in the middle of the field, and if you try to throw a post route that's 10 yards above past the linebacker, is just going to jump up and catch it. And that's everybody. Everybody, since we progressed as far as the defensive line, everybody's moving to the linebackers and actually getting better at it. So that's a good thing overall as for the league. But just the way the Madden mechanics are is it kind of gives the benefits for the linebackers for that part. And just also, hot routing your tight end or your slot receiver as far as a drag to slant, because 90% of the time they're going to be open. They want to get that quick 5 yards. And again, all this is, like you said, is FPR. But when you abuse it every possession, it's not FPR in my opinion. So I think I did over 2 minutes, but I'll let that go.
No, and we're gonna have a whole section here in just a little bit where we talk about feedback from last week. So I definitely will have my opportunity to continue my ranting and raving. Maniac, 2-minute drill, go.
Well, I'm gonna start off with disappointing team so far in the OMFL in season 81 is the Atlanta Falcons, 1-14. Guys stacked. I don't know what in the heck happened to him this year.
Oh, I think we all know what happened.
Yeah, Nate and those New Orleans Saints got a hold of him, but
no, that ain't it.
But yeah, I mean, he went from the top of the cream of the crop to the bottom of the barrel here in just one season and stuff. So he's got some building to do, and just other things like Dawson said, FBR and stuff. I really appreciated your rant that you had and stuff. I listened to it and stuff, and there's a lot of things that even everyone can improve on. I myself try to take into consideration things that maybe I was leaning on too much at times and stuff, and trying to call a better, clean game myself. Even though it may even cost you a play here and there, or it could even cost you the game. It's best do it clean, have fun, and walking away feeling like you actually didn't steal a win. I know guys that listen to your rant and stuff. It seemed like there was positive outcome from it and stuff, and that's good. That guys are taking it that advice and rolling with it instead of discarding it.
It's so funny. Both of you started your 2-minute drill in one subject and spent like 30 seconds on that subject, and then worked your way to FPR. So clearly, FPR is going to be a pretty hot button topic, and we're gonna spend some time here on the show today just doing some feedback from both of you guys, since I was the only one able to actually do the podcast last week. Let's talk about the playoffs. So right here, Week 16 is going to be wrapping up, I think, tomorrow night. I think we got a couple games that get scheduled late for tomorrow, and so there's still some races that have yet to be decided. It's funny that it seems to be that the top end of both sides, both AFC and NFC, are pretty solid and pretty much finished and wrapped up. And if I'm correct, it looks like the AFC is pretty much done. Like, those teams are set. There may be some there's probably not even much flip-flopping of seeding. Maybe a couple. There's an opportunity for some flip-flopping, but there's still some teams that are still in the running for that last playoff spot there in the NFC. So, Maniac, let's start with you. Let's start in the AFC before we go to the NFC. Who makes the play? Or actually, the playoffs are done in the AFC, but how do you see the seeding falling in the AFC?
I think right now, from what I see and stuff, and I noticed that Brady in the chat was saying he wanted to see playoff rules changed. He's got his 13-2 Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's playing for a wild card spot because of Mr. Dwayne and those Colts have everything locked up and looking for an undefeated season, possibly going into the playoffs. The Colts, obviously, they're going to be the number 1 seed. I think number 2 is going to come. I mean, this is a pretty tight race. I think for number 2, looks like Denver has the lead right now with a better division record, I believe, in the AFC. And it just that may come down to the last week of games. I don't know who these two guys play. I haven't looked into that much depth, but that could play a part. If Denver gets it and he starts hosting some games in Madden does what Madden does, and you're playing in some snow games, it could be definitely a tough way to get into the playoffs, because I do know snow and weather does make an effect, and maybe he's used to those things. Cincy and the Bengals, obviously he's had a little bit more struggle this season than we've seen from him in the past, but I believe he did go ahead and lock up that the AFC North. I was really glad to see Chaotic give him a little bit of a run, a push this season. Finally, Chaotic, just keep after it. It's going to fall for you one of these days. And but like I said, the seeding's already wrapped up, I think, pretty much in the playoff race, except for that number 2 spot. Jacksonville obviously cannot win the division, so they're going to be the top wild card team, and he's going to be something to deal with, I think, to look out for Brady and those Jags.
Yeah, I want to say the same thing that you did about Chaotic and the Browns. It is good to see him begin to get some wins under his belt. I know how hard he's been working, and look, we've all been there. It's not fun to lose season in and season out, and we're all here for the camaraderie and the buds, and that's all fun, but you got to get some wins under your belt, and so it's good to see that he was able to start to find some more. And we've got another good close buddy whose name will be unsaid, who I know will turn it around next season and get some wins under his belt and begin to enjoy this just a little bit more. Dawson, your turn. Who makes the playoff seeds in the AFC?
Yeah, AFC, I think it's pretty much wrapped up as far as all the divisions. One thing in the game, it does have the Patriots as clinching a playoff spot. Broncos won the division, so they're set there. Then the Colts, of course, they're 15-0, and they already clinched their first round bye. So it'd be interesting to see what he does with his team come next game. Does he try to go for an undefeated route, or does he, play it safe and bench his starters on that end? And then the Bengals, right now in game, he's not saying he's clinched the division. He's got to win his game. He is 4-2 in division, so I think he will come out on top. And then wild card, of course, the Jags are there. They're pretty solid. Like I said, they're a 13-win team right now. And then you have the Dolphins. They came up short against the Cowboys. I was watching that game the other night, and he had to win that game to kind of solidify his division, and he didn't do that. So now he's got to fight for the wild card spot. I really don't see anybody else that could fight for that last wild card spot. I mean, of course, you got the Browns at 7-8. But the Dolphins will have to, actually, they won 9 games, so they will come out at least 9-7 if they do lose out. But yeah, I think it's pretty set. It's going to be interesting to see which divisions and which seeds will come out. Like you said, I think the seeds are kind of set. Of course, the Colts got the 1 seed. I think Patriots and like you say, even the Patriots and Broncos are kind of fighting for that 2nd seed. But Patriots should come out because both teams are 10-5. So yeah, overall it's kind of set in stone, but not yet. Got a few teams to have to finish their job, and should kind of squeak in.
Yeah, has Dwayne had an undefeated season? I don't think he's had an undefeated season.
I don't think so, yeah. I think the only one is, well, at least since I've been here, is Mo. When he had that, yeah.
Yeah, and I know that Mo had one a couple of years ago. All right, let's move over to the NFC. Dawson, we're going to keep it going with you. Wrap up the playoffs in the NFC. There is a little battle for that last wild card spot. A couple teams technically in the running. I think really all of them. Lions, Bears, Giants, Panthers. Of course, I don't know all of the tiebreakers and exactly how that's going to work. Tampa Bay is listed in there right now. That first wild card spot is long gone with the 12-3 Seattle Seahawks having that one. A little bit of an in-the-air opportunity for that NFC Central with the Vikings at 8-7, Detroit Lions at 7-7, Bears at 8-7. So still an opportunity there. All the other divisions are sewed up. But who do you see making the playoffs and the seeding falling in the NFC?
Yeah, well, first off, I just remember Mo and Cincy both went undefeated, so there's that. He had when he was with the Patriots last cycle.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but going back to the NFC, like you said, the Cowboys clinched the East already. They did that back in week 8 or so. The West, of course, the 49ers, he's still playing tough ball over there, 12-2. I'm not sure if Seahawks, if Mo have beat them yet. So it's going to be interesting. I guess that's his arch nemesis until he gets that team ready. And then you got the South with the Saints. You clinched that already. You already got the division, or at least the division. Well, I say that no, you got the at least a playoff spot. So
Yeah,
you still got the division.
division's wrapped up because
Oh, you do? Oh.
yeah, 2 wins over the Buccaneers.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. The game's lying to me. All right, and I think the only division that's kind of fighting is the NFC North, which is always like that. You got the Bears and Vikings kind of fighting for that. Bears, they have to play. Who do they have to play? I'm not sure who they play, but Vikings do play Lions. So if Lions can pull that upset, then the Bears will get in. But if Vikings do beat the Lions in Week 17, then they will end up with the same record as the Bears with 3-3. So it's kind of up in the air on how Madden kind of decides that. Vikings do have a better home record. Not sure if they look at that towards the Bears. But with all that being said, I'm gonna go with the Bears winning the NFC North,
Nice.
which will give the playoff spot to, of course, to the Seahawks, and the last wild card spot will be to the Vikings and Bucks. And then if you look at the last remaining games, the Bucks have to play the Falcons, the 1-14 Falcons. And then the Lions have to play 7-7, or excuse me, the Vikings have to play the 7-7 Lions. So I'm going to go with the Bucks getting that last wild card spot, and mostly because I have the Vikings first round pick, and I need them not to make the playoffs so I can get a better draft pick for them.
Maniac, how does the NFC end up falling?
Well, I mean, obviously the Dallas Cowboys and Massiville, they're going to be the top seed. What a season he's had with Archer. I mean, a rookie quarterback. He's just shattering records and just making all kinds of noise there in the NFC East, and locked it up like Dawson said, like week 8. And so that's amazing. The San Francisco 49ers, I actually gave him one of his losses this season. I don't know how, but I did give him one of his losses, and he's got a tough team, and like you said, that's seems to be Mo's nemesis right now, because he just can't seem to get past the big herd effect there in San Francisco. And then Mr. Nate, you've done it. You pulled it out. I called it a season too late, because last season on the podcast I said that you were going to win the division, which you kind of came up short late in the season. But this season you've definitely kept it going all the way through, and congratulations on winning the South. Minnesota, I really think, to me personally, I think Minnesota's going to pull this out. I think he's kind of come on strong here as of late, and I think he's going to pull out the North Division there in the NFC. And then, of course, like you said, Mo with the Seahawks, a 12-3 record. He's got that first wild card spot locked in. And of course, right now the last wild card spot that is being occupied by yours truly. I don't know. I'm very uneasy about this, because the Falcons and the Panthers, everybody in my division has given me lots of fits playing, and I'm not real confident, even though I was just dogging the Falcons on that 1-14 record. He has got so many weapons, and he can go off on a tear, offensive tear, and you got to be able to match some points, and I'm just not sure if I've got that yet. My team's still young, still building. We're definitely going to give it a try, but I will say that it's a possibility that the New York Giants, if he wins his last game, which he'll have a tie just like I do, and that right now that tie with the Saints that I have has kind of kept me in that lead spot, because I do get a half a point compared to some of these other guys that've already got 7 losses. So if one of these other teams, if it all falls right, you could see the Giants that tie come into play. If he wins out and some of these others happen to lose and I lose from that spot, look for the Giants maybe to snag that last spot.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun, like last week when we see that Minnesota game, right? The Minnesota and Lion game. I think that's just it's going to come down to the wire. 00 has been battling it all year long. And there is that potential rematch between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Saints, and Maniac's going to get his revenge on me. So it should be an interesting playoffs. I can't wait to see just kind of how it comes through and see exactly who makes it and those matchups. I got bounced last year in a really close tight game against Ziploc that went right down into overtime. And went right down to the wire, and so yeah, I'm excited that I made it. It has been a tremendous up and down season. I played some of the big boys and got my cojones ripped off manually and handed right back to me and told to go home and play with them. And so I am not looking forward to facing Seattle or San Francisco or Dallas. Because those teams are just on a whole nother level, which is tough, man. It's really tough to figure out how do you compete with those guys. So I'm gonna mix up the agenda just a little bit because I want to finish wrapping up some of these other items before we move. We're gonna move the feedback to the very last thing that we do. Let's talk about this thing that has been mumbled behind the scenes. It's been talked about behind the scenes. It's been questioned behind the scenes. You and I, us three, have even hinted towards some of this today. To tank or not to tank? Do we feel like tanking is a thing? And did the Atlanta Falcons tank? That's the big question. We all know it's out there. We all know it's been talked about. I have been asked about it so many times. Do we think that teams tank? And if you do think that teams tank, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about tanking? Maniac, I know you're going to be passionate about this, so I'm going to start with you. What do you think about tanking?
Tanking. Oh, to tank or not to tank? I should have said the whole Shakespeare quote with that. But yeah, I mean, with the Falcons and stuff, I mean, I get it. He's only 1-14. Suck for luck type of deal, like the Colts did. That the fans. I know he's
suck
been
for luck. I just want to say is a phrase that should just not be used ever, just in life.
Yeah, it is kind of a contradicting statement. So, but I mean, I get it. He struggled. I think he may have had some injuries. I think the running back, I forget his name. Freeman. Yeah, I went down with the injury and stuff, and but I mean, he's got a very good backup to Freeman. And there in the with the Falcons and stuff, and I know from playing him and stuff that he has been very efficient on offense and he's solid on defense, but then he starts trading away some of his core players. I don't know if they were some asking for 7-year contracts or what the deal was, but it just kind of seemed like he was selling the farm off and stuff. And if he was really trying and got down to this last game or whatever, I'm not going to say I wouldn't be tempted to go ahead and put in some of my backups to see what I had. If I had a 1-14 record coming in the last game, I probably would look at some of my younger guys, but I just can't wrap around. And I know I've said it before. You want to not ruin your draft. Because if I win a couple of times, then it's going to mess me out of maybe even it could mess you out of 10 spots in the draft and stuff, and sometimes that's the difference between getting a core development star player and just getting a mediocre guy that can kind of fill a spot for a season or two until you get another shot in free agency or draft to pick up another solid player. With that said, like I said, I'd probably be tempted maybe to play some of my backups as a rookie to see what I had, but it's just never a good feeling when you just tank. I don't know. I come away feeling dirty.
Yeah.
And
Dawson, well, go ahead. No, finish that thought.
No, and I just say, guys, really, for the sanity of the league and stuff, I would rather not see tanking.
So I guess my question is, just call it. Did the Falcons tank? Do you think what he did this year is considered tanking? That's a better way to put it.
I feel so, yes.
What about the Eagles?
Eagles with
Savante.
I don't know. What they got? Isn't he like the third owner so far? Or is
I think he's only the second. I think Zip. Am I wrong with that, guys? I thought Zip left in the off season.
Yes. No, he left mid-season, and
Okay.
Savante took over.
Okay.
I couldn't remember if it was Savante that took over or if it was Dan Thrax, whatever he changed his name to, and then left again, and then Savante took over. But I kind of feel maybe he possibly did because that team's loaded. I mean, they have a lot of talent, and be coming up on the short end week in, week out. It definitely throws up caution to the wind. Because it's like, and this Madden talent is key. I mean, to me, the teams that I've played, if they've got talent, if they're an 84 overall or an 86 overall team, and they've got stars at every position and stuff, they're hard to play because those guys just seem to step up to a different level, and you're chasing with 70 overall players. It just, to me, it makes a difference.
Dawson, we'll get your thoughts on tanking, but just for the sake of right now, Falcons, did they tank or not tank?
Well, I mean, you got to look at how they play in the past years or the past seasons. And Falcons did make, I believe, the NFC Championship last season, where the Cards were a non-playoff team. They didn't make the playoffs. Savante was with the Cards last season, so you got to look at those and see how do they play and what kind of team they have now. And if you look at the Falcons, they are a championship-ready team. I know that you don't really want to say that as far as being a Saints fan, but I mean, they're ready to win. And being 114, it'd be interesting to see his perspective on this, because obviously we all want to assume this, and we all want to say, oh, well, this team is tanking, but maybe he's just trying new things out. What's kind of interesting is to see him benching Matt Ryan for a 62 overall quarterback, but maybe he's just trying new players out, and they're just not good enough, obviously, being 62 overall, or they're actually tanking. And I think we had this discussion in past cycles before, where some other teams were obviously was tanking when they was out of the playoffs. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of going to go. It's a fine line between if there are or if they can't, or they're just not having their game. And take my game last night. I lost to Giants 31-3, and I wasn't tanking, but Dak went 6 for 22 in passing. It might have been a little bit too much eggnog last night, but I'll plead the fifth on that. And we played twice, so I do expect my next two games to go well. At least I hope. But at the end, like I said, we can only assume. Obviously, if you look at the numbers, you look at the past history, and you can pretty much, without a doubt, say they are. But it's kind of, I mean, maybe in the draft show he would come up, and D Money can kind of explain his reasoning behind this, or why he wanted to. And like you said, like Maniac was saying, play the rookies to see if they're going to be his long-term franchise quarterback, or if they're going to be those long-term players, those key players down the road, or what. We don't know. And maybe I'm rambling right now, but overall, what I'm saying is I think it's two different perspectives of the Falcons and the Eagles. Well, with your example on that, in my opinion,
I want to give you a chance to give us all of your thoughts, but for right now, like there's a point I want to get us to. So, you think you said I lost it, but Falcons tank or no tank?
tank.
Oh, I agree. I think he's tanking. All right, Maniac, you said tank, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Eagles, Maniac said tank. Dawson, what do you think about the Eagles?
I want to say no tank,
Okay,
but he's not tanking.
I would agree. I don't think no tank. Steelers, tank or no tank? Maniac.
Tanking at this point.
Dawson.
I want to say no tank just because he's not committed in the league. At least he's got other stuff outside the league right now. I want to say no tank.
Yeah.
He's just not committed in the game, I should say.
Yep, I would agree. No tank. Buffalo Bills, Maniac.
I would say no to him because he's just so passionate. I don't think there's ever any way he would tank. But
No
that's
tank.
my
Love it. Dawson.
Same. No tank.
Agreed. No tank. So this is the like interesting part, right? Like where on this list do we start to not even put tanking in the mind, and what kind of goes into making us feel tank or no tank, right? Because we all, I think, could agree that if and like this isn't a shot, and people are going to make what they want to make of this. I am he changes his name every other week, but what does he always go by? He changed it to his last name, which I don't know how to say very well, but Coach Gazio or whatever I can't say his last name.
Josh.
Coach Josh. Thank you. Coach Josh, if he had the Falcons and was 1-14, we wouldn't be having this tank or no tank conversation. We would all think because of his passion, he's struggling, he's trying to figure this game out, he's trying to build his team, but yet because D-Money has them, we do think tank. And so I think that's what's the interesting thing, and I think you guys have all kind of said it is it like past talent, past record, passion, being connected, right? Because we got to the Steelers, and Dawson's like, he's just not connected at all anywhere. So I don't think that he's tanking. I think he's just not, just not connected, not trying. And so it's just an interesting pivot of what causes us to think tank or no tank when it comes to a team. All right, Dawson, now your turn. Give us your complete thoughts. Do you think teams tank? What goes into tanking, and how does that make you feel?
Yeah, kind of what I just said earlier, just that overall, like you said, there's many teams, putting myself in this spot as well, in the group as well, that we just don't have good years. And at this time of the year, you're like, oh well, do I want a good draft pick, or do I just want to fight and try to find new, what my players can do, what my backups can do, and what can I do in the free agency and all that. And some things it just doesn't go your way. Like I said about last night, I beat the Bears in Week 15, and then I lost to the Giants in Week 16. And I don't consider myself. I don't think I would ever tank like that, just because I feel like I put my time into this game, into this league, to not lose. I, for one, do not want to lose, and I know it happens. Obviously, you look at my record, but yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. I guess you say it's a fine line, and maybe I'm just riding the line. I don't want to make a decision on it. It's just that the way I feel about it is that at the end of the season, if that's what you choose to do, to not waste your time, to spend your time on losing, then go for it. I guess if at the end of the day,
that's interesting.
You're out there to get your draft pick, I guess, if you lost. But but then also you don't want to just give wins to guys at the end of the season, because you want to play upset. You want to be the upset team to keep a team from going to playoffs. Maybe that's just the competitive side of me, but it's nice to say, oh, well, I beat this team and now he's out of playoffs. Again, I think it's the fine line, and at the end of the day, only you can decide if you are tanking or not, if that you choose to do that. I personally, I won't ever do it. At least I don't. I'm not trying to do it. I do know. I say this when I'm playing this game. I'm already out of playoffs, and I have a bad game, and I say, "Oh well, I lost. So what can I do to fix that?" I don't say, "Well, no. At least I'm helping my draft pick or draft spot."
Yeah. Yeah, I think you guys both said the things I agree with. I think that there's a fine line between tanking and not tanking, and I think there is a clear difference between knowing, okay, I'm out of the playoffs, and I have to figure out what does my team have or not have, right? Like I've been in that position many, many, many times where I've been out of the playoffs. Like my season's over, right? I've tried. It's time to start putting in some younger players, get that XP for them, build up my backups, find out what I do and don't have, try some different plays, mess with my playbook. But I'm still trying. And in those times, I have become many seasons, become that guy that's upset really good teams at the end, mainly because I don't care, right? Like I'm trying new plays. I'm playing with players that are low overall but still play really well. Like that is a thing. Like there are players that their overall doesn't match how well that they play, and then you start finding those players. You start finding that rhythm because you're not trying as hard, and you'll get that one or two upsets towards the end of the season. I think for me, where it goes into tanking, which I don't like. I don't like the idea of tanking. And I had this conversation with D Money. Like he clearly understands, the Buffalo Bills, the Washington Redskins, the Rams. These are teams that are owners who try very hard to win, who are still trying to build their team and figure this game out, and who just haven't had enough success, who are now going to have a top prospect, the number one prospect, taken from them by a team who's a top 3 player in this league just because he decided to tank. Like that, I do have a problem with that. Like that is, I've never seen it this blatant. And he and I have had that discussion, right? And here's the thing. I purposely I think that he did it on purpose, and he's very intentional about. He was smart, right? And if you're this talented that you can do this, then like you got us. You beat the system, and we all know that many guys here have beat the system. Mo and his Seahawks has beat so many trade systems and XP systems, and like Mo is the guy that came from Ducks was before him. He is a protege of Ducks, right? Like all of these guys have. I don't think that they're evil for this, so don't misread it. Like they figured out the system, and how could you beat the system? And we had to come up with new rules and new ways of doing things because of that. But I will say that D Money has beat the system this year, and he has figured out how to make this happen because he's kept every game close enough to where, like, he's not blatantly not trying, right? Like he's trying just hard enough to keep games close to where guys can't say, well, you just purposely lost that game. But I'm going to tell you, when I beat him this last time, right, the first time I beat him was CPU game because he was on vacation. The second time that I beat him, I told the board guys, I was like, he's tanking. Like, he's not blatantly tanking, but he's tanking because there's no way, like it was too easy to beat him. And even if he starts his backups, which he did, right? He knew his season was over. He had lost some games while he was on vacation. He didn't have an opportunity. But he still is going to win games even with backup players in. And he hasn't won any of those games, right? He knows how to just make enough plays and do enough things to where he's going to lose a game. He's going to get that top pick. But nobody can really blame him on tanking. And right now, we don't have any evidence that he's tanking outside of just assuming and guessing, right? I don't like that, all right? I don't like that a arguably number one player in this league, definitely top 5, I would say top 3 player in this league is going to get the number one pick. He's going to get the top pick, and he's probably going to go do some trades and get rid of some of these older guys who still have stuff left on the tank and get other high picks, and he's going to sweep the draft, and he's going He's going to have most teams that won 4 straight Super Bowls, right? He's going to build a team like that because he tanked one season, and he was able to do that. I think when we start getting to the Eagles, the Steelers, the Bills, I think it's easy to say no tanking because those guys don't have a history of being a number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 player in this league. Those guys have been middle of the pack and lower, and because of that, we don't think, or there's no way he's tanking. I think it's pretty easy to say a 1-win team, and that 1 win came in a CPU game. Clearly, he's tanking here, right? Like that. Even if he starts every backup player on his team, from offense to defense to lines to free safety to everybody, that's a 4 or 5 win team. Period. Like if he plays normal but plays with every 62 overall player he has, he still wins 5 games minimum, like because he's that good of a player. So for him to have no human wins at all, clearly tanking. I can't blame him. I get it. I just don't like it, and it gives me an icky feeling. And guys have been like, we have to do something about this, but like, what do? You have to be able to prove that a guy tanked, and I just don't think that we can prove he tanked because he kept all those games close, right? And I don't go to the 62 overall quarterback because I have started a 65 overall quarterback this year because everybody was zoning me with Breeze and I couldn't do anything. And my 65 overall guy has a big arm, decent accuracy, and 85 speed. And so when guys zone me, like quarter fours and all that, like I could at least run on that and make some plays. It didn't work out. I've now went back after my last butt whooping that I took against Seattle, and I'm going to start Breeze again. So I don't go to the 62 overall quarterback. I just go to the fact that he has no human wins, and he's played some teams that he clearly should have beat, and we will see him be a 12, 13, 14 win team next season, and we'll all be able to go, oh yeah, Nate was right. He was tanking, and Nate called it in week 8 whenever he played him for the last time because it was pretty easy to understand. So, all right, we've all ranted and raved enough about tanking. Let's move over to some owner feedback questions. And actually, we only have one. Now, I did blast out a couple of weeks ago. I can't remind everybody every week, and because of that, these things have slowed to a crawl. And this is the first one we've had in a couple of weeks. So just a reminder, if you guys want us to do your questions, you do get points for us using your question on your incentive plan. You got to do this. I don't have the time to hold hands and beg for your questions, so make sure that you give us your questions and you come in. Kevin, good morning. Thanks for watching the show, buddy. We appreciate everybody who tunes in. It's a low crowd, but it's also early on a Saturday morning. So here's what Mo said. Excuse me. Mo said, what are your early... I love that he has 3 questions in here. What are your early thoughts on upcoming offseason? How will upcoming free agency compare to last season's? And do you expect anything different from this year's draft compared to last season? We're going to lump those into 2. I'll give you credit for 2 because the first 2 kind of are hand in hand. I'll give you the draft questions, the second one. So I'll give you credit for 2 here. But guys, help me out. Try to list these in separate threads or at least space them out so it's just a little easier to get to. So what do we think about this upcoming off season? We'll go to you, Dawson.
Yeah, I know. Usually, when the first cycle comes out, the first season ends, and everybody sees all the free agency, and they just want to spend all the money. They don't care about next season. They don't care about 4 seasons from now. They just want to spend, 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 and that's what we kind of saw last cycle or last season. We had some guys they like. I guess everybody likes to throw their money around and try to get the guys they want early and keep them around. And I do see this season being more. Also, last season it was. Overall players wasn't very high in my opinion. Wasn't really a lot of guys out there that you're willing to spend that 7-8 million per year. I think this season, this free agency, we're going to see more of those guys. We're going to see the guys that they will realize that they're not working and they can take on that that cap penalty, so they're going to cut them, and then they're going to they'll go for somebody else, and they're going to leave a lot of guys out there. And at least I'm hoping, I should say that, because I got some cap space I'm willing to spend, and I got a few signings next couple seasons, but I think I have enough of that, and I let some big offensive line go that kind of hurt me in the end. Personally, for me, that's what I'm hoping is the free agency is going to be. I guess loaded as far as players that I can get there and kind of sneak in and get. And so, yeah, I think the offseason, as far as the draft, I really haven't really looked at the draft class to see what's out there. Maybe I should with Dak. Maybe I need to look at the quarterbacks, but yeah, I really don't know if it's loaded as far as like last season, because we got a lot of players that were the overall wasn't really good. Their speed wasn't there, but there was quick depth. I mean, there's maybe some in the free agency right now, but they just don't fit your scheme, don't fit our scheme as far as the league wise, and so I think there's going to be a few out there. I do see the first part on the heavy front part of the draft being loaded as far as like it was last season. So it's gonna be interesting to see which teams can pick up, which teams can actually pick the right players.
Yeah, I think that last year it was look, there were some good players, but it wasn't like a smashingly great free agency. I do see it coming this year, and I'll also just say we're going to talk more about this on next week's podcast about things that I'm thinking about changing for next year. But the free agency rule will be changing as far as 5-year contracts. So when you re-sign your players, there's a rule right now. If you have 3 players asking for 5 years, we'll let you, blah, blah, blah. All right, we give you some exceptions. But that's going to be changing because I did prove my theory right that if you purchase the package to help re-sign players and you offer the right amount of money, they will take lesser years. It's difficult. It's hard. You got to strategize and plan it, but they will. And so we're probably going to move that to if you have 4 or more players asking for 5-year contracts, then you can keep some. I think that is going to also boost free agency because I think some guys aren't they're not developing their coach with those re-sign packages, and now they're going to have to start doing it, and some are just going to choose not to do that. And so anyway, I think that last year was weak, but I do think this year is going to be much more deeper and have much more players that are really good impact players in free agency. Maniac, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, definitely the first season we had only a sprinkle of guys that were really worthy of any kind of money, to be honest, on my part. And there were some guys that threw around some big cash. I think this season we're going to see a broader spectrum of players across the board because guys are now having to make the harder decision. Plus, the game itself, some players are asking for big money, and they're not going to be able to sign that with the rules that we have, wanting guys wanting 5 and 6 and 7 year contracts, and and then they're offering the smaller contract, not wanting to accept it. So we're probably going to see an uptick in players across the board that are going to be more worthy, I think, of a free agency. It's going to have a little bit of frenzy, I think, probably, especially the guys that kind of held back from this last offseason stuff that kept some money, cap space, and that have been planning towards this free agency. We're going to look and possibly see guys really take that next step and improve their team to get to the next level. So I think it should be interesting free agency. Now, as far as the draft, what was the question on the draft again? Was he just wanting to know?
Yeah, no, he just said, what do we expect from the draft as compared to last year's?
With this being a created draft from the guys that we've got and we uploaded and stuff, it's hard to tell. I do know with the scouting that I've done, it looks like it's going to be top heavy again with quarterbacks. Yeah. And so so if you need a single caller, this is your draft to go ahead and probably get your next face of your franchise. probably within those top 10 picks, and
unless
it's
you
so
want,
deep.
unless you want to trade me Teddy, which I am interested in.
You can have Alex Smith.
Like I said,
No,
unless
no,
he's interested in giving me Teddy,
Teddy Bridgewater has been the savior of any part of this season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so he's not going anywhere. No, but I think that it's going to be deep in some areas, and of course, let's face it, I'm going to plug in. I know I've been in your ear the last couple of days about something, Nate, and I'm sorry, but I don't know what these created rosters. It seemed like this last roster, a lot of players were really good, I thought, but there were some players that had all the attributes and things that you would look for with a solid player, but then their speed come in at 82 speed, and you're like, as a cornerback, and like how on earth would anybody in real life, be able to be considered a cornerback and even brought into a combine? If they were that slow, they wouldn't even be brought in for that. But I think overall, I think the draft is going to have some good players in all positions, and it'll be interesting to see how the guy that created the draft class, how he perceived each player to be, and obviously it'll get revealed when we have the draft.
So I'll say this about the draft class, and then give my thoughts about our conversations that we've been having. So these are Madden generated draft classes. So he actually doesn't edit actual player attributes. So he exported some Madden generated draft classes, and then just did the attribute changes to match our roster. So like no big hitter and no high motor and linebackers with conservative play ball, like all of those 12-hour changes that I made early in season 1. So that's what he has done. He's done 3 draft classes that have those roster edits or attribute edits so that they match our roster. The actual like speed and all that's just like Madden. That's just straight coming from Madden. And I will say this, like you are 100% right. Like I agree with you that 81, 82 speed cornerbacks is stupid. It's the goofiest thing ever, right? Like it just, those players would not be drafted, would not be in the draft, would not have a second grade round, round grade on them. None of that stuff would be true, and they wouldn't be there. My pushback is always twofold, right? With a custom draft class, we could edit it. But if I go in and edit it, that means I'm going to know everything that's there. Like, there's no way around that. Like, I would see every attribute from every player. I don't right now. Guys will think what they think, but I think my draft will prove that I don't know where all the big hidden gems are. Like, I keep this as fair and as upright as I possibly can. I download these draft classes. I don't tell people which ones they are. I upload them randomly. I don't check them out. I don't edit them. I don't do any of that stuff. And so if I were to edit them, I would know what all is there, right? And if I invite other people to edit them, we'll all know what's there. And then my other pushback is, even if we do edit them, even if we're like the league is like, Nate, we don't care if you know, it's better for the league if you edit these players. Like, who decides how many get edited? Who decides where they go, right? Like, who gets 95 speed? Who gets 90 speed? Who gets 87 speed? Like, there's no way to, like, evenly, fairly, and randomly edit them. Like, there's just not. Like, it would all be assumptions and guesses. I don't know. Again, we would be assuming and guessing. We could definitely find it out in a test, but if you edit a 92 speed guy or an 82 speed guy to have 90 speed, would it change his combine numbers, or are those combine numbers just kind of set whenever that draft class was created? And so if it doesn't change the combine numbers, now you got guys not drafting players because the combine numbers aren't matching up. All right, and it just opens up a whole Pandora's box that I'm not comfortable with. I do 1,000% agree with everything you're saying, and I agree it sucks. I just don't know until somebody can present to me a fair way of editing them, or if somebody can go find an edited draft class out there, or at least somebody who's making good draft classes. I don't mind downloading them um, and going in. I think that there would be a way that I could go in and edit it would suck, guys. Like, it would be 10, 12 hours of work, but I think I could go in and edit the attributes without seeing the skills. The high motor and all that stuff. Like, you technically could see them, but like, guys would just have to trust me that I really wouldn't look, and I could quickly go because the way you can go through the menus, you can go the back way, and you actually don't ever get to the speed and the strength. You actually just go to the high motor, like those attributes. And so if somebody can find a guy who's creating good draft classes out there, I'm opening to editing those. But right now with a guy who does ours, he doesn't edit any speed and stuff. He just does those edits, and I just don't know of a fair way to do it. So the caveat is, if guys will find a fair way to do it, I'm open to the discussion. I just don't see currently a fair way to fix these 82 speed cornerbacks.
Another thing, last cycle, the cornerbacks was pretty low as far as poor, I should say, compared to the receivers. And those were custom, like you said, those Madden generated draft classes. So I think it's just maybe it's just the Madden generated itself is just that some players, some positions just don't have the speed that we expect to have to compete against their counterparts. It's just the way they create them.
And the receivers I found last draft class were the ones that were most shocking to me. Like, there were some 85, 86 speed receivers. Now, I agree. I think that 85, 86 receivers in this Madden play better than they did last Madden, but still, that's grossly slow. Like, 90 speed is a slow receiver, right? Like an average receiver. A 94, 95 is like a speedster in this Madden. An 87 speed, guys, is tough. Like, it's usable. Like, I think that wasn't it Cincy that proved that you can make an 87 speed receiver good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that this is a super interesting conversation. And
also it's just one class too. We got another class coming up, and we don't know any of the combine numbers, so it could be completely out of the 180 as far as the speed.
So let's talk about our last thing, and that's the feedback from last week. You guys all listen. I'm going to kind of remind, because I think that there are still some guys that are not listening. But what is your feedback? What are your thoughts? I'll say this: 2 quick things. Number one, man, the feedback forums are still. I love that guys are being honest for a change, but man, they're still not good. I think I got 5 in a row last night that all needed to be watched, and yeah, it's so tough. I joked in the boardroom, I'm gonna slit my throat, pour acid on myself, jump off of a bridge, into an ocean where I can't swim with no limbs, just to make sure that I don't have to deal with this ever again. Like, it's so overwhelming to see guys continue. And it's the same guys. It's the same guys I've been talking to all year. But yeah, unless I am talked out of it, which I can be, I've proven that I will listen to the board. I will probably end up banning. It's called several different things, but it's the double post. It's where the tight end runs a quick comeback, like a 5-yard comeback, a 3-yard comeback, and where the 2 outside receivers each run a post to the center of the field. In my playbook, it's called skinny post. It's called many different things in many different playbooks, but we all know that one very specific play. It gets ran way too many times and way over abused, and the posts just continue to be a problem. And I got a bunch of feedback forums this year that continue to say the guy abuses post, only runs post. And it's funny. I'll admit, I got to go back and see. I don't necessarily believe it, but like even Chaotix, who hates the post, was blamed for running only post in one of his games. I didn't even get to tell him that, so he'll probably love that concept. But the other thing I'll say is, Maniac, you and I talked about it after our last game. Clearly, I could tell that Maniac was overthinking things and thinking through his plays and his playbook. On one hand, I hate that. Like, that's not really a ton of fun to have to, like, overthink and not just, like, flow and enjoy. On the other hand, like, I liked it because, like, I could tell that he took in the podcast. He was thinking through what he was doing. And I will say, I've never had a bad game with you, Maniac. I think we've definitely had some games where we disagreed on a few things, but it was by far the cleanest game I'd ever seen you run. And if you go back and watch the film, it's an instant classic. I need to post it. It was a great game. Like, you had to come back at the end, but it was a very tight game. And with you calling the cleanest game I've ever seen you call in all of the years that we've been playing, it was a fun chess match, a give and a take, and you still made a great comeback by playing straight up fair football. And so it just, like, it works. And guys that are going to win in this league don't need to use those things that they use and that they lean on. Because they would win without those things. And that's, I think, the frustrating part is guys who tend to abuse flaws in the game or use things in the game that just work too much. They would be good players without that crap. And yet they still lean on it. So I've rambled enough. Feedback from the podcast. What'd you guys think?
Who's going first?
I'll let you
go ahead. You go ahead. Dawson.
Okay. Like I said, I listened to podcast, and I kind of I agree with everything you said. And I think one thing you left out was the spin moves. Everybody loves the spin moves. And when I talk about spin moves, you can do it occasionally, and some guys can do it a lot better than others. I try to do it. I can't. Montgomery, he can't do it. He spins and gets tackled in the back. But what I'm trying to, I guess what I'm talking about is when you spin, then you do another spin, then you do another spin, then you juke, and it just the way they. I guess you can time it right. I mean, that one spin move, you time it. You're good at sticks and all that stuff, but it's just you kind of, in my opinion, you messing with the mechanics and the AI logic as far as you constantly spinning and all that. I think one Ziplock's not here, so I can talk about him. But last season, he loved the spin move with Le'Veon Bell, and Le'Veon, he's one of the top backs in the league, and you can just see some of his games. He goes outside and he spins, then he spins again, and then you see him doing a spinning move, and he goes out for 75 yards. So overall, what I'm trying to say is that that is one thing that's kind of to me that was just not, I guess, left out, but just that needs to be mentioned that realistically, you don't see running backs spinning constantly in every play.
No.
Another thing, 4-6 and 4-4, I really don't consider them as a base formation.
They're not.
And even in playbook, or FPR says they're not. So just a heads up on that. Another thing is, like you said, mentioned earlier, is some guys just try to find ways just to beat the system and rather try to play clean, straight up, and call those plays, just strategically calling the plays instead of just calling a play because it kind of beats the AI and that the offensive line can't cover a defensive line if you spread it out and you rushing two outside rushers. That the offensive line is not going to be able to read that and it's going to leave one free. Yeah, that works, and every once in a while, but not every play. I mean, you got to be realistic on that. At least my opinion on that. I know it's not meaning much, but also just know that I've seen, and like I said, through my opponents and just me watching some games, here and there, is base the line. Just use that. Learn how to call that, because when you call cover one, it gives up, what you're calling, but cover man, you bring in the safety and you put 8 in the box, and then when you want to run the ball, you you just get concluded and just get. I mean, you're not doing anything. I mean, it's no fun in my opinion. And but yeah, overall, I like the podcast. I like what you pointed out, and those are just a few things. I know there's a lot of things. I know things will come up, and new things will come up in next season, and we'll talk more about that. And I think overall, the point is just don't try to beat the system. Just strategically, call the right plays and beat your opponent like that instead of trying to mimic or manipulate the AI and such things like that.
The spin move to me, and that's a great point. The spin move to me is equal to my other rant of the jump in shooters, and so I'm a big H1Z1 player, and if you ever play H1Z1, like one of the strategies that people use is they just jump. They jump, and then they shoot while they're jumping, and it's like, it's so unrealistic. I'm like, no human could jump and shoot a gun like they're on a bounce house over it. Like, it's just not a strategy that should be used. And spin moves the same thing. Like, spinning, if done right, is fine, right? But like 3 and 4 spins in the same play, like, it's just not realistic. And what's funny is, like, Maniac realized that we gave a little boost to the fatigue because on the defensive end, if you did all the buttons to get loose you get off the block, like, your guy would just be dead tired. But you can spin like you're on the spin cycle of a dishwasher all day long and never lose any energy and keep running, right? And so it's just not realistic. Sometimes it happens. Like, I've done it sometimes where I'm like, ooh, I shouldn't have hit the spin move there. That was like, it's fine. Like, but if you're doing it all game, every game, all season, it's like, okay, dude, you have a problem. Just, like, don't do it. Like, it's not complicated. It's not hard. Guys who come here and like, I got to get used to no switch. It's okay. Take a game and figure it out. But after that, it's really not difficult. Just don't do it. Yeah, it's pretty uncomplicated. All right, Maniac, Give us your feedback. What you think about the podcast?
Well, like you already kind of said, I listened to it. I try to take it to heart and improve my game because, I mean, no matter how FPR you feel like you may be, I think everyone and it's that way in everything you do. You can always improve and get better and follow the rules closer than you ever have before and stuff. And like I said, it opened up my eyes to some things that I was kind of leaning on as a crutch a little bit too much, and I appreciate that. I welcome it because I definitely want to be an FBR player. I don't ever want to feel like I was robbed of a game, but also don't ever want to feel like I robbed someone of a game also. And that game that we did play after that and stuff, it felt great. I mean, even though I did lose that game and stuff, and it kind of hurt my playoff chances a little bit and stuff, and still fighting for it and stuff. But it was a battle. It was wits because I did overthink some things, but I was also going through my playbook and saying, okay, I think I've run this one already, and this is kind of similar to that play that I ran already on this drive. I need to do something else. Don't just fall into the pitfall of, all right, here's a play with a post route, a curl route, and an out route on each play art and stuff. Do something that's got a little different. And I will say that I do try to make my reads and stuff. I don't go just to the first thing that I feel like should be open. Like, say for instance, if there's a drag in the play art, I don't immediately look for that because I know that eventually it will be open against basically any coverage. I try to go through my reads, but if there's rush and things like that, coming through, I always try to have that route or quick route, so I've got something to dump it off to, so I don't have to take the sack every time. But I do feel that definitely that podcast was great and it was needed. And I do think, like you said, I think there is some guys that still need to watch it. And definitely, guys, you need to watch that or listen to it and take it to heart. Don't take it as a slap in the face, but just take it from his perspective. What can I do to better have a better impact on the league going forward with how I play? Is it something that is going to cause more controversy, or am I going to be part of the solution?
Yep. So I'm kind of I'm gonna break one of my rules. I try to keep feedback. I'm trying to let this load completely. What's the word I'm looking for? Anonymous. There's the word I'm looking for. And so some guys are going to see on my screen some of the first feedback that came earlier this season. So if you want to be a butthole, you can see the first 10 that came in and who wrote them. But I've kind of hidden them now. Nobody can kind of see. But what you're looking at here is our feedback spreadsheet. So as you guys submit those, it auto-populates to here. And then I have to go in there manually every single day of my life, multiple times a day sometimes. And green means all fives, perfect game, and there's nothing to worry about. Yellow means there was at least a 4 or less on there. And then orange means that there's probably a 3 or less on there that film needed to be watched. And so you can kind of see all the different, feedback forms that have come in this year. And we're going to go to the bottom here and show, even after my podcast, that there's a whole lot of orange and yellow. And these are the ones here, right here. There's a whole bunch of orange and yellow. Some of these, I try to ignore when I read them and try to decipher, is it just a guy who's being, caught up in the emotion right after a loss or right after a game? And that's not really something that I'm going to, some guys will give a 3 for he user the defensive end all game. Well, I'm not going to go, that's not against the rules. I'm not doing that, right? And some guys, look, Colin has got a lot of blowback this year about, his quote-unquote abuse of his receiver. I gave my thoughts on that last week. I don't want to go off on a rant again. I think that is the dumbest thing in the world. He is a receiver. As long as he's mixing up the routes, it's your job to go stop it. And that's the fine line between FPR, watching film, and all the stuff that we do, is because there is a fine line between someone abusing something that the game just doesn't do well or that has broken a game, and then someone doing something where, no, actually as a defense or an offense, you should adjust and stop that, right? And if a guy runs, 15 post routes a game, I got a problem with that. That guy's abusing the game. He's abusing things that needs to be fixed. But if a guy is running, the whole entire route tree and he has 15 catches from his number one receiver on you, that's you, bro. Figure out a way to stop that. Look, I've told him this. We've had this conversation, but Cincy Berg's, at least watching his film and when I played him, one of his strategies is he sends double routes into the deep zone, deep middle, and if you use her a linebacker, if you use her a safety, if you use her any of that, he waits for you to pick one of those routes to cover, and he goes the opposite direction. He's really, really good at it. He's got the timing and everything down. I haven't watched any of his film lately. He hasn't gotten negative feedback. I'm just telling you from my experience last season when I played him, watching the film to be prepared for him, and then when I played him, that's why I picked him off 3 times, right? Because that was his strategy. That's the type of thing we want to break. Don't find a strategy that is abusing power, and then you're just doing it over and over and over and over again. I played a player this year, I'm not going to use names, that I look, as a human, I love him, great guy. There's no humans here that I dislike. There's clearly some guys I dislike playing. I love Dwayne as a human. I think he's the coolest guy in the world. I was up in Memphis a couple weeks ago. I was hoping that was close enough to meet up with Dawson and Dwayne. I just thought that would be so cool. I hate playing Dwayne because he's so FPR, but yet he just hammers you in the teeth, and it's like nothing you do works against him. Like he's got the cheat codes, and I just don't know, right? But there are other guys I just hate playing here because when I play them after the game's over, I don't feel like I was straight up beat by just the better player. I feel like I was playing a comp guy, like a competition guy, like what you would turn your TV on ESPN and watch guys play Madden. We've got guys here that play the game the same way. And it's super unfortunate. And it's something that I hope guys will listen to the podcast last week, take to heart, figure out those things in their game that they are not doing well and that they may be leaning on and doing too much of, and just change it. And again, if you play a game where every third down you got the guy 3rd and 18, then I'm perfectly fine. Play zone every third down that game. But if every game, every year, you're playing zone every third down, like you're not doing it right. Like I've said it on the last podcast. I'll say it again. There are times where I purposely will pick a play that I know may get beat. I may give up a first down. I may give up a score. But because of the way I've been calling my game, it's time to call one of these, right? If I have a drive where I rarely call 3 zones in a row, like that just never happens. But like if I know, okay, I just called 2 zones and now it's 3rd and 18 and I'm not calling a 3rd zone. I'm just not. I'm going to call a man play that I think will cover where I need to cover, and I'm going to go manually watch, the middle of the field because I know on 3rd and 18 guys are going to attack the middle of the field for, what would be an easier 3rd down pickup, right? Like that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cover man, and I'm going to pick a safety, and I'm going to go and I'm going to cover the middle of that field and try to keep myself from giving up a 3rd down. And that means sometimes I give up, and it's my worst thing I do. I give up a lot of 3rd and longs. But nobody after my game could say he didn't call man defense on 3rd down. He didn't mix up his play calling. It can't be said. So, yeah, that's what my expectations are. I've ranted and raved kind of long enough on the whole subject, but it's been a good show. So let's wrap it up, put a bow on it. I know that Dawson's got to get off to a honey-do list and enjoy his Saturday, and Maniac's been up all night at high school. Did we win? Maniac, did we win playoff game?
Oh well, my son's already eliminated from the playoffs, but we were hosting an out of town 6-man game and stuff, and it was a great game to watch because it was back and forth. The team that was represented at our home stadium won 67-48, so it was a barn burner.
I've seen those games like on TV and stuff, but I've actually never played, experienced, or like watched a 6-man game. I know I'm assuming like up north that's more of a thing. Here like football's so big, like that's just not a thing. But it sounds like super interesting.
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
That's done because the schools are just too small to field like a big football team, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. That's super cool. Our local team here, which Ed Reed went to when Ed Reed was in high school, and like they've put out several big time football players. A lot of Saints players live in this town, so like their kids go there. The number 2 running back in the nation goes here. They had their playoff game last night, and my kid went to it, and they lost. So, yeah, it's high school football time, man. But let's put a bow on the show. Dawson, I'll give you an opportunity. Put a bow on the show. Take us home.
Yeah, like you said, FPR, just kind of brush up on all that, getting ready for the off season, kind of focus on, because everything goes really fast in the off season. So, for all the new ones, with this being the first off season, kind of be aware of all that. And, also, for all the teams that are not eligible for it in the playoffs, there is the toilet bowl. If you're not aware of that, there's a way you can win one incentive point as, you can sign up for the tournaments.
Can I quit the playoffs and get in the toilet bowl? Because I could use that extra point.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to give up the Saints. So, But yeah, so just kind of FYI on that. If you have any questions, just message me. I will send a flyer out later on today. Also, the goal sheet right now is a close race in first and second. Right now, I'm winning, and Mo,
rigged.
he's.
I let me really quick because I keep cutting you off. I don't mean to, but like I'm the only guy in the history of the gold sheet to go bankrupt twice.
Yeah, you went bankrupt like the back-to-back weeks.
Sucked.
But yeah, I think the third place right now is Massimo with I want to say $300. I don't have the sheet up right now, but yeah, Mo, he's right on my tail. You know, he's a little sneaky. He go in there and he throws bids on 3 or 4 teams, and I gotta go back and make sure that he's who's bidding on and trying to play that little cat and mouse game. But overall, it's been good. A lot of teams have been, a lot of owners, I should say, has been playing it, and a lot of like bankrupt. Very first bid that they placed or bet they placed. So it's just one of those little seasons, and just kind of FYI on that.
Maniac, take us home.
I'll tell you, Nate. I'll donate my $100 to that because I can't ever figure it out. I'm not a betting man, so I'll donate my $100 to your pot. So you. No, it's been a great show. I really appreciate you guys let me on. This is the first time I've been on in quite some time, so I really appreciate you having me. And yeah, guys. Again, I know FPR has been a big subject, obviously, but make sure you listen to that last podcast Nate put out, and like I said, take it to heart. Don't take it as a slap in the face. Just really take it to heart and look, look within, and say, hey, everybody's got something they can improve on and stuff. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the playoffs shape up, and hopefully maybe I can squeak in. Obviously, like you said, we'll get to face off against each other if I do make it in our first playoff game. So it will definitely be something interesting to see if I do make it there. So good luck, everyone, in the playoffs.
Yeah, a couple quick things, and I'm going to get us out of here. The gold sheet started many seasons ago. Dawson's taken it over and just taken it to a new level. It has become a staple here, and I think I can say this. Dawson was thinking about retiring, and we're super excited that he's decided to not retire. And so I started to think about how do we keep the gold sheet going, because the gold sheet is it is a staple here, and I can't imagine the OMFL without the gold sheet. There's another opportunity out there. If somebody would just take ownership. If you do this, there are some perks that I could give you that I give the board. They're minor perks, but they are perks. They're quote unquote the payment for all the hard work that these guys put into the league every year. But if you go to stats and go to fantasy, there actually is a weekly fantasy points that Daddy Leagues does automatically for you. And I just think it would be so freaking awesome if somebody figured out how to use this to create some type of, it can't be a full-blown fantasy league like we do in the real NFL, but like some type of fantasy football where like you picked a quarterback, a running back, and a receiver, and you submitted that every week. And the guy with the most points wins that week, and whoever has the most wins at the end of the season, first, second, and third, like just something easy like that. I don't know. I just think it would be such an easy, cool thing that somebody could take ownership of, make their own the way Dawson has made the gold sheet his own, and it just would be a freaking really cool addition to our league. Somebody's dog's ready for us to wrap up this podcast too. The other quick things are that it's almost, it is December 1st today. It's almost the end of the year. I'll say that this really has been amazing to watch. Not only has we have grown as a league, to be honest, we've had no issues with open teams at all because the OMFL 2. Hopefully we will never have issues, and that goes to Maniac for getting that started. Chaotic has taken it and ran with it. He will officially be stepping off of the OMFL board at the end of this season, just so that he can concentrate on the OMFL too. But you know, that's a big thing. The NBC, the TFL, the OMFL2, many other leagues out there have not stayed full, and we have. With that said, we've also had 2 other Madden leagues approach us that want to come join our community. And so we may have 6 Madden leagues in our community by the time we get to January 1st. And that's just a really cool thing. There's a new Red Dead League that has started. The Grown Folks Wrestling is as hot as ever. The soccer club is still going. The golf league, Mo, has taken that over, and it is really strong. H1Z1 is always a strong group. And then the Call of Duty, not super strong, but still a thing that we do out there. The NASCAR League and some of the other leagues have kind of taken a break, but it's just really cool to see how we've grown as a community. And by far this year, we've had the most content that we've ever had. I mean, the OMFL2 is pumping out content. The NBC is pumping out content. We don't see a ton of stuff from the TFL yet, but the other leagues are pumping out content. It's just really awesome. And I just want to say kudos to everybody who's part of our community and our league. And again, we are always open to donations. We've spent a lot of money this year on just website form, like all that stuff, plus daddy leagues, which I'm a little frustrated by. We paid for that over 2 months ago, and we still don't have the code, and I'm a little pissed off about it. He's a great guy. I'm not pissed off at him personally. It's just like, we paid a lot of money for this thing, and I kind of would like use of the thing that we paid a lot of people's hard-earned money for. But anyway, we're always looking for donations and accepting donations. So if you want to give, hit me up in a PM. We've had a couple guys give recently. It just, all of it goes to use, and it's super appreciated. So thank you everybody who's been giving and donating, and I know that all of us are going to get a lot of time off here with the Christmas holiday break coming, and I know I'm going to be doing a lot of work on the site and different things, and adding these new Madden groups, and introducing everybody. And so yeah, just super excited. So as always, grownfolksoc.com is our website. Go check it out. You can see all of our different leagues and everything that we kind of have to offer here. Our playlist for the whole Grown Folks thing. If you're in one of the other leagues, NBC, TFL, OMFL2, the Grown Folks Wrestling League, H1Z1, any of the Red Dead, there's a playlist for everything. Do ! Share, and then whatever league. Share TFL, share NBC, share Red Dead, share GFW, all one word, all one thing. That code will give you the link, give you the thumbnail that you can use, and give you the directions on how to do it. But you can upload your videos to our playlist. Most of these videos will be mine personally that I stream, but still I'd love to see all of you guys post your stuff, and you can watch that on grownfolks.tv right there on the website. Our Daddy Leagues page, daddyleagues.com/OMFL. This will be getting an update, I pray, soon. I sent the guy a message. I hope he's not frustrated with me, but it's like, okay, we paid for this 2 months ago. It's time to get what we got. Twitter.com/grownfolksoc is our Twitter page. You can see all of our great content that we produce out there. Lots of stuff from the OMFL, OMFL2, and NBC constantly being posted, so go check that out. Twitch.tv/grownfolksoc. We've got over 70 videos currently uploaded there now. I need to do some exporting because there's a bunch more videos. All these have not been exported and cleaned up. I got to do that today. And then finally, youtube.com/ now this doesn't show it here, but you can do /SLE/grownfolks online community, and you'll get to the same page. But you can see all of our playlists here. OMFL.tv, Madden games, Grown Folks Wrestling, the Golf Association, the Football Club, other Madden game or other Grown Folks games that we played here. Just all kinds of stuff right there for you to check out. The TFL has a playlist. The NBC, they just don't upload a whole ton of stuff. So lots of ways to get involved. If you're interested in coming and being a part of what we have to offer, hit the Join Us button. There's a small, quick application. We just want to make sure that you're 18, first name, last name, and then select what league that you're interested in, and then tell us why. The reason we do this is if you're too lazy to do this, then you're going to be too lazy to actually have a commitment to our community. And we're just not the community for you, because we are looking for a commitment from the people of our community. So lots of fun things, lots of great things. We can't wait until, the Christmas break gets here, and we all get to do a lot of gaming and hanging out and lots of fun stuff. So Maniac, Dawson, thanks for giving me some of your Saturday morning. Go enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll get this hour and 35-minute podcast out to everybody. It's going to be a ton of fun. I appreciate you guys. Everyone have a blessed week. We love you much. Have a great one. We'll see you next time. Peace.
See ya.
Playoffs.